Greetings. I'm Shawn Redman, aka the cheesily named Darth Shawn, and we're finally here. The Force Awakens has arrived. The Force has finally awoken from its slumber. And it's pretty good. It's pretty good. There's a lot to talk about. This is going to be a non-spoiler review here. I'm going to bring a spoiler review out later. So if you haven't seen the movie, you're still safe to watch this one, although it's always recommended to have watched the movie. But if you need some opinions, here they are. The Force Awakens. Now, we've been able to guess and hypothesize a lot about Force Awakens. I know I have. I know a lot of people have. It's been a lot of things. But seeing it in real person, sitting down in that theater and having that crawl come down again for the first time in a long time, in a decade plus, and really the sequel to Return of the Jedi, the first time in 30 years, this sequel in the making, it's a little overwhelming. I'm not going to lie. I may have teared up just a tiny bit when that came down. I was so excited and so happy. And then we get into the movie. And I'm going to be fairly vague on a lot of it because you talk about anything and it's a spoiler in this movie. This movie is so put together and so much stuff in it that any little thing can be considered a spoiler. So I'm going to be vague for the most part in this one. And then in my spoiler review, I'm going to get really in-depth and really deep and just ruin everything. But this movie would not have worked if it weren't for Daisy Ridley. That's just the truth. We can say a lot of times if the prequels would have worked if a better actor played Anakin Skywalker, or even if somebody who was able to push George Lucas more than Hayden Christensen was. The prequels, especially the last two, would have probably worked even better. The same thing can be said about this movie. If Daisy Ridley is bad, if Daisy Ridley couldn't act, this movie would have really, really suffered. But it's the exact opposite. Daisy Ridley is amazing. She excels in every little aspect of it. Even if when her character can take weird jumps at times, she is so good that there's enough believability in everything that she does as a stranded scavenger looking for her family or waiting for her family and making do and scavenging through all of these old ship parts and things like that are on Jakku, and she's able to do it. She's able to present this strength and just an ability to be so real and so much like the characters we've experienced before in Star Wars. And it's a huge credit to both J.J. Abrams and her that she is just such a great performance in this. Not to be outdone by Daisy Ridley, but John Boyega's Finn is also unbelievable. He really, really grasped the Star Wars universe, really grasped the character, and he's both honest and sometimes a little goofy, but not in like the Jar Jar Binks or the silly prequel goofy, in kind of the I don't know really what I'm doing, but I'm going to fake it type of goofy, and that can come off. He really, really plays this character so well as this stormtrooper who has decided to basically leave the First Order, become a fighter for resistance and go through a lot of different things. And his character, and it grows and he moves and he is able to present emotion and just being very real. And that is a great credit. John Boyega is fantastic in this. I think while the movie could have lived with him not being as good of an actor, unlike with Daisy Ridley where it was so important, I think he just elevates everything. Every scene that he is in, there's just so much humanity to it, and that was so refreshing to see, especially because the prequels sometimes are devoid of humanity in their actors. And we got this from John Boyega in so many ways. Really, all the new characters are great, but the two mains really, really hold everything down, and they are just outstanding. And then there's Kylo Ren. Anyone that's watched any of the videos before knows how excited I am for Kylo Ren. He was the character that immediately when the pictures and then the trailer and everything started coming out, immediately I was just locked in on it. Everything about him was so cool. I had speculations and different things about his past, and we'll get into how right and wrong I was in the spoiler video. But basically, he is everything I wanted. everything I imagined the character to be in so many, and sometimes even more. And Adam Driver does a fantastic job, both mask on and mask off. This isn't a Vader clone, and I know a lot of people had worries about that. We're like, well, he just kind of looks like Darth Vader, so they're just going to rehash. No, he is very, very different. Yeah, he's a man in a mask, but there's so much more emotion behind him. And you didn't need that from Vader. Vader needed to be that cold, calculated killing machine in a lot of ways. For it to really work and his redemption to really come out in Return of the Jedi. That all really worked. And so, nothing against Darth Vader, obviously. Vader is one of the most iconic and great villains. But you couldn't duplicate it. You couldn't do the exact same thing. And Kylo Ren is not that. He is conflicted. There's so many emotions. When he's mad, he whips out that lightsaber and he is just destroying machinery and pieces and anything that's around him. When he's sad and he's upset and you see it in his face how conflicted he is. He really is the personification of Yoda saying, fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, hate leads to suffering. All three of those things, he is so much a part of each and every one of them. You can tell how much he is afraid of something, of being something, of not being something, of failing people. You can see how anger and how it just leads and then more and more to suffering and pain. And you can see he is the personification of the dark side in so many ways. And it's incredibly performed by Adam Driver. He's without with the mask on, he is just menacing, and you can still feel this. Then when he takes the mask off, and you see the emotions on his face and the way he portrays things, it's epic, and it is really done well. And something that a lesser actor could have really ruined this, but because Adam Driver is so good, it just elevates them. Now there are a lot of new characters in this entire movie, and I'm not going to hit on all of them, and I hit on more in the spoiler review. But that being said, I really enjoyed almost every new character. Several of them, my complaint is both good and bad from it, because I wanted more. I wanted more of Captain Phasma. I wanted more of Maz Kanata. I wanted more of Poe Dameron. But they all were good in what they were given, and they all did a great job, and it's great to see them in this. So there's a lot of new characters, and they did it. Packing them all into a 2-hour movie was very, very hard, which is probably why my biggest complaint in this movie was it needed 10 more minutes. And it really could have, because of what I'm about to get into, why it definitely needed more, because we've had all the new characters and those beautiful people right there. Yep, obviously we knew that the original actors were back. We knew they were coming back. The question was how much they were going to be in it and how much they were going to affect the story. For the case of Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker, I'm going to leave that till the spoiler review really to talk about him and everything. But let's just say I was sold on it. I liked it. I know some people may not think it's the best thing, but I think for this story that they were going to tell, the way they handled Luke Skywalker was perfect in my mind. Now, on to the other two that had more of an impact on this story. We'll start with Carrie Fisher. Seeing Princess Leia back on the screen was great, and when she's right there, she's back, and you're like, that's Princess Leia. When she talks, that's Princess Leia. Although she goes by General Leia Organa this time, so now she's the General of the Resistance. And while she's not a major character, she's more of a side character in this one. It was just refreshing and nice to see one of the most iconic characters back, and the way she portrayed it was just perfect, and she felt very well in this movie. And you can tell from what things that happened that she's going to be continuing in this, and I think kind of an important mentor to some of the characters, which is really cool, and I like that going forward. Then we get Harrison Ford, and it's been probably a decade, maybe longer, since Harrison Ford cared about a movie, really. Like, he's done some good things. He's been a good actor, but the truth is, you can tell it's just Harrison Ford playing Harrison Ford. Indiana Jones was Harrison Ford playing old Indiana Jones. That was a problem. So coming into this, we all wanted and begged, please, let Han Solo be back. And Han Solo, oh my gosh. You could literally take the Han Solo from the original trilogy and drop him in, and you have it. There's no change, no difference. This is an older Han Solo not an old Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford cares. He wanted to do this project. He worked hard on this project, and it just shows as there is just emotion. There is the wit. There is just the old Han Solo there that we all grew and loved up with, and he's just here, and it is great, and it is wonderful to see on this. And I could use more adjectives, more things to describe how awesome it was to see Han Solo on the screen again. But just basically, he did a great job. The movie worked so well around him. He was great as a kind of the old member of the crew. And when he returns back, we see the Chewie, we're home from the first trailer. When you see that, it's awesome. Literally just everything about him worked in this movie. There are some weird little tidbits that will get into the spoiler review, but everything else as a whole was just great. And even when it was weird, I still liked it. As a whole, you can tell I really did like this movie. I think when I'm not going to try to really rank it yet. I want to see it a couple more times. But I think if I did a preliminary, it'd be somewhere in between Return of the Jedi and Revenge of the Sith. It's still very, very good. It still does everything. It brings us back to Star Wars, and that was important. The problems that it really does have is there's just so much stuff that it could have really benefited from being 10 minutes longer, or maybe just slow some things down. The pacing is a little erratic at times, where we're just flying through things, and that kind of, it doesn't really take you out of the movie, but there's so much that you have to digest, and they're just throwing it all at you that you can't possibly completely digest it while sitting there. It's overwhelming at times. And so I wish they would have just kind of, a few things, slowed it back a little bit. I know that they were scared of the prequels being the too slow aspect of the prequels, but there are so much history and stuff in the prequels that there are times where I am completely okay with the slowdown, and they should do more of the slowdown. But in this, it's just a little bit too fast at times, and the pacing, and that could have been alleviated by slowing it back and adding 10 more minutes. That's what I would have done to the movie. That being said, it's still really good. I personally wanted a little more backstory, but when you go back and you look at A New Hope and you see how little backstory is in A New Hope, and that's what they were going for, I'm okay if they wait for the backstory and stuff to come in the next couple of movies, or in the novels, or in the comics, and things like that. So while I wanted to, while sitting there, I'm like, well, how did the First Order rise? Or what is the Resistance? Or wait, there's still the Republic. What does that mean? What is this character? How did this get there? We're going to get a lot of those backstories. So while I wanted more, I'm okay with it because I know it is coming. So as a whole, it's a very good movie. It's a very good movie. Check it out. Go watch it, especially if you're a Star Wars fan. Brave those lines, get those tickets, and continue to make it this phenomenon that it is, because Star Wars is back. And I'm going to do several more videos on The Force Awakens, but we can then start ratcheting up and worrying about, hey, Rogue One's a year away, and then Episode 8's a year away, and we're just so close to more Star Wars coming out, and that is just beyond. So what do you guys think? Now that it is officially out, did you enjoy this movie? Was it as fulfilling as you wanted it to be? Did you have problems with it? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, like this video, subscribe to the channel. And I am Shawn Redman, aka the cheesily named Darth Shawn, and may the Force be with you. Always.